of course, we're talking about the Cake app. Talk about sort of what you guys did and what resulted from that warrants concern over it.
Well, we received a report from a concerned parent. They came across this app on their teenage daughter's device, and upon further exploration, felt it was highly inappropriate given that it's marketed to 13 plus, and you can even sign up as a 10 or 11-year-old. There's nothing that prevents that from taking place. We decided to do some further exploration, and we set up an account and then came across some of the problems that are listed in the alert around the highly sexualized nature of the app.
And so, of course, what kind of messages or what kind of emails or other suggestive things were you getting?
Well, we even received a video that was incredibly sexually suggestive in nature. So, I think also the point is we signed up with a profile picture that wasn't suggestive in any nature. It was quite innocuous in nature. And within 12 hours, we get 3 unsolicited random messages, all of which contain some sexual content. So, you've got to ask yourselves, why is this being marketed to those who, are teens?
Are you able to take me through some more details of the fake profile that you set up, like who you posed as?
Well, we were a 13-year-old, so we followed the rules, but we also later on after this test case, we did have a few staff that were able to go in and sign up as 10 and 11-year-olds with no warnings that come up. So buried within the terms of use, they say, yes, it's for 13 plus, you require parental consent. But no warnings or steps are taken, even when you put in an age that tells, that would indicate to the app that you're even under 13. So we set up the account. We didn't provide any content. We didn't go live streaming, but we had people who wanted to connect with us with the go random privately kind of area, which is another space. Obviously, where you can be live streaming to a whole group in the app and it's fairly anonymous, but then someone can ask you to go private essentially. And given all the issues we've seen with sextortion, the vulnerability of teens to being lured online, it's ripe with pitfalls.
Now, you might have already gone through it, but like you talked about a sexually suggestive video that you received and that kind of thing. What is there are the app's users, I guess, and then there's the app. And so has the app itself done things that, I guess, tell you guys that it is an app that's pursuing sexually suggestive interactions with its users?
Well, yeah, I mean, the biggest things on there is a hot list, the top cakers. You go in and you look at the titles surrounding that. Again, it's all, most of it is sexual based. You go in to watch people who are just live streaming and anyone can go in and view. You're able to receive diamonds. So, we watched for probably a half an hour, late teens, young adults doing things on their beds and, receiving diamonds for these types of things that then you can in turn, cash in for real dollars. So what message are we sending, and why would anyone think this was an appropriate space for teens to kind of be hanging out?
Oh, okay, that's really gross.
Yeah, it is really gross.
So like, what are the steps now? Like, have you guys reported the app to anybody, or what goes from here?
Yeah, fabulous question. So one thing we wanted to do before we put out this kind of public alert to say to parents, and it's really difficult for parents to know what their kids are doing online. So cyber tip alerts are really a part of just saying, hey, pay attention to this. But before doing that, we wrote a letter to the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission. This app developer is out of the United States. There are laws, the COPA law in the United States, that talks about this type of marketing and not putting in any safety precautions relative to children. So we raised our concerns and we're waiting to hear back. But in context to that, we also copied Apple and Google because they both make the app available within their stores. Now, granted, they say it's for 17 plus, but with all of the things that this app developer has not done to enhance the safety and protection of children, we felt it was appropriate to notify them of our serious concerns about it.
Okay, well, I think that gives us everything that I need. And anything you want to throw in?
Um, well, it's important to talk a little bit about what parents are able to do in a space that seems completely out of control. So some of the things that we certainly make note of when we put out the alert is, number one, if your kid's under 13, they shouldn't be using it. If they're 13 plus, they shouldn't be using it either, really, because there are plenty of other live streaming apps that are available. And when this one is, again, massively dedicated to sexual activity, I don't think that's a space you really want your teenager hanging out in. You also need to be talking to your kids about sextortion. So the fact that somebody can get you to do something on cam and you think it's happening live and then it's over, but meanwhile they're recording everything that you're doing on the other side, and then they use that to extort teens. So this whole sextortion issue fits into this space, as well as the online luring and issues that then seep into child sexual abuse material. Finally, the most important thing you need to tell your kid is that if something goes astray online, it's absolutely developmentally normal to make mistakes. You have to keep the lines of communication open and tell them they can come to you over anything and that it'll all be okay.
And I guess that brings me to one follow-up question. The term sextortion is not one that I personally have heard before. So is it, at least from your perspective, does there seem to be a rise of, I guess, sexual exploitation among kids specifically?
Oh, absolutely. It's an enormous, there's a whole business dedicated to it. There are shops set up overseas where their job is to go after vulnerable teenagers who in fact think they're communicating with another teenager. They're doing developmentally appropriate things. They're sexually curious. But within that, again, getting into the brain and the brain development, the frontal lobe's not fully developed, judgment and reasoning isn't there. They are ripe to be manipulated and they're being taken advantage of. So they're doing something in real time. It gets sexual in nature. And then the person comes back and says, yeah, I've got a shot of your breasts now. If you don't, go to pay through Western Union $1,000 to me. I'm going to then send it to all of your contacts and you're going to be humiliated. Well, that's a teenager's worst nightmare. So they prey on the things that they know teens can be manipulated over. So it's really important. Parents don't bury their heads in the sand and they have these really valuable conversations about some of the areas of concern and why, going on live streaming can have some serious consequences.